What Asia Wilson just did was completely...
There is no turning back from AJA Wilson's most significant career error, which created a risky circumstance that resulted in Caitlin Clark being subjected to constant attacks throughout the 2024 WNBA season.
We have got confirmation of what is the worst, one of the worst things that happened to Caitlin Clark.
The repercussions, including possible suspension, criticism, and perhaps the end of her career. The scandal's truth is more significant than basketball, and it is fundamentally upending the league.
Asia Wilson, who was at the time, prior to Caitlin Clark, the face of the WNBA, sent an angry mob towards a 22-year-old.
What specifically did AA do, and how did it become out of hand? Keep checking back as we dissect every aspect of this startling controversy.
Second, Clark's deal got announced. What's delayed is not denied, and then made this whole thing about, then started posting about how basically people...
Let's first discuss what caused this issue. AA, despite her success, there has always been an underlying discussion about the lack of mainstream recognition for Black female athletes compared to their white counterparts. This conversation has been going on for years, not just in basketball, but in all sports. Wilson has been a dominant force in the WNBA for years. She has won championships, MVP awards, and is one of the most recognizable faces in the sport.
Posting that in order to get a signature shoe, because it did get pushed a few weeks later. Not only was that not true, she is confirmed she had to keep it secret for almost 2 years. So for almost 2 years she knew about this. So by the way, and if you want to say that she didn't send an angry mob towards her, yes she did. Yes she did. She even had teammates, even future Caitlin Clark teammates, saying, I might get a shoe before Asia Wilson at this rate.
When Caitlin Clark announced her candidacy for the WNBA draft, the hype was incredible. Everyone wanted a piece of her, and Nike wasted no time in signing her to a $28 million shoe deal, one of the biggest in women's basketball history. She was breaking records, drawing large crowds, and making headlines everywhere. This is where things start to get messy.
Nobody, and I mean no NDA, that makes it so that you have to pretend, you have to play victim and pretend you don't have a shoe when you have one coming. You have to stay silent. You don't have to, especially when you saw what was happening.
Instead of applauding the league's expansion and the potential benefits of Caitlin's popularity for women's basketball, some players, including AJ Wilson, reacted angrily when Clark's deal was revealed, turning the discussion into one about racial justice and who truly deserved the limelight. Wilson and others pointed out that many Black WNBA stars had never received the same level of endorsement deals despite their talent and accomplishments. It was a fair conversation to have, but the way it played out was hurting rather than helping the league. It created a US versus them mentality, and that mentality quickly spilled onto the court during Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Although physical play is nothing new in basketball, the consistency and intensity of it towards Clark raised eyebrows among fans, analysts, and even former players, who began to wonder if Caitlin Clark was being targeted on purpose, and, if so, who was facilitating it. Then came the real controversy. When asked about Caitlin Clark's influence on the league, Wilson made remarks in interviews that, whether intentional or not, fueled the flames. She mentioned how some players are given preference while others are ignored, and she also mentioned how she felt uncomfortable in certain situations, specifically mentioning Indiana, where Clark was playing. It didn't take long for people to figure out that Wilson was fabricating a story, and if so, did that animosity lead to the egregious on-court assaults Clark suffered during the season? When Caitlin took a particularly brutal hit during a game, not a routine foul, but a purposeful shove that sent her crashing to the ground, fans erupted on social media, and people began demanding action. Was this just the result of fierce competition, or was it something more sinister? The WNBA commissioner was asked if the treatment of Caitlin Clark had gone too far. Her response was a general statement about physical play and sports manipulation, but fans weren't buying it and demanded accountability. Meanwhile, Wilson doubled down, refusing to clarify or defuse the situation, stating that the WNBA had long ignored Black athletes and that she wasn't going to apologize for speaking the truth, even though many people shared her sentiment regarding racial disparities. They also believed that Wilson's actions had indirectly created a hostile environment for Clark. Then, a string of leaked messages and behind-the-scenes conversations surfaced, revealing that Wilson had allegedly been stirring things up long before Clark had even joined the league. Screenshots showed her dismissively addressing Clark's popularity, asking why she was receiving so much attention, and even making jokes about how some players should welcome her to the league the hard way. Was this the tipping point now, AA? Wilson is embroiled in a dispute that could change her career, and sponsors are reportedly reevaluating their partnerships. The discussion has switched from racial inequities in the WNBA to did AA, and the league is facing pressure to implement punitive measures. This is where things get serious, because if the league determines that Wilson was indeed involved in Caitlin Clark's hostile treatment, there could be serious repercussions. We're talking about possible suspensions, fines, or worse, being barred from future endorsement deals, not to mention the harm to her legacy. AA. Wilson has established herself as one of the greatest of all time, but this controversy threatens to overshadow all of her accomplishments. What will happen next? Will the WNBA intervene and discipline Wilson? Will she be required to apologize? Most importantly, how will the league recover from this mess? What should have been a celebration of Caitlin Clark's arrival has become one of the most contentious events in WNBA history, and now AA Wilson's career is on the line. One thing is certain, though, this incident has shown significant divisions in women's basketball. Keep checking back, because this narrative is far from over. Concerning the repercussions of AO Wilson's behavior keeps becoming worse. As time goes on, fresh information comes to light, and the WNBA finds itself in a crisis unlike any it has ever experienced. What began as annoyance over endorsements has turned into a full-scale verbal spat, accusations, and maybe career-ending repercussions. Online, ardent supporters of AA Wilson and Caitlin Clark are arguing over whether this dispute is about racially fair competition or something else entirely. The league, which was already having trouble gaining widespread recognition, is now at the forefront of a national dialogue that spans beyond basketball. Sponsors are paying attention. Wilson has previously served as a prominent spokesperson for several brands, but some of those partnerships are now under scrutiny. There are rumors that some businesses are thinking of pulling out of the controversy out of concern for the PR nightmare that would follow. If that occurs, Wilson may face financial consequences that go well beyond any suspension or fine the league may impose, but the main question is still whether the WNBA will actually take action. The league is in a tough spot because, while punishing Wilson too severely could alienate a sizable section of its player base and supporters who feel she has been unfairly singled out, ignoring the matter entirely could receive off the court. It is said that league executives and team owners are debating how to respond to the situation. Some people think that in order to convey the lesson that stoking animosity, even inadvertently, has repercussions, a suspension is required. Others fear that punishing Wilson might cause a chain reaction. The WNBA has never seen a situation quite like this in relation to claims against other players who have previously made similar statements, and their choice will set a precedent for years to come. Caitlin Clark hasn't said anything about the matter. Other than the customary post-game interviews in which she continues to dismiss inquiries over the aggressive play, her camp has not released any public statements. Although she is confronted, people close to Clark indicate that she is becoming irritated because she doesn't want to be perceived as someone who gripes about physical play. She also understands that what she has endured goes beyond the usual rookie treatment. Some analysts contend that Clark's silence has only made matters worse, and that calling for unity within the league would help ease tensions. Others counter that it is not her duty to resolve a situation that she did not cause, and that the longer this goes on, the worse things get for everyone. In spite of the growing criticism, Wilson isn't giving up either. She still stands by her claims, and in a recent interview, she reaffirmed her conviction that Clark's quick ascent to fame is evidence of the league's persistent inequities and that Black players in the WNBA have been disregarded for years. The tipping point may be coming sooner than anyone thought, and the league's next course of action will determine not only Wilson's career, but the future of the entire WNBA if they decide to discipline her. Her remarks have only served to fuel the flames, with some defending her position and others accusing her of making excuses for her actions. Marcus see change in the way player behavior is addressed. If they ignore it, it might encourage others to increase tensions even more. And then there's the fan response. Calls for justice on social media are common, both for Wilson and Clark. Some claim that this controversy is being exaggerated. The intensity of the argument has attracted casual sports fans, media figures, and even former NBA players who are all weighing in on what should happen next. Not to mention the locker rooms, some people think it's the pivotal moment of this WNBA season. Players in the league are openly and privately taking sides, with some expressing support for Wilson. As we move forward, there are a few potential outcomes. While some people are subtly protesting the way Clark has been treated, the tension is genuine, and it's having an impact on the league in ways no one could have predicted. The WNBA could suspend or fine Wilson, thereby speaking out against what many consider to be unacceptable behavior. They could either adopt a middle ground approach and make a general remark about sportsmanship without really taking action against anyone, or they could do nothing in the hopes that the controversy goes away on its own. In any case, one thing is for sure. This situation is far from time will tell, but one thing is certain. This is a turning point for the WNBA. The world is watching, and every choice made going forward should serve as a wake-up call for the league. The future of women's basketball, Wilson and Clark's careers, and the league's reputation are all on the line. As the days pass, the pressure only gets stronger. Will Wilson face real consequences for her role in this controversy, or will it remain an unresolved chapter in a league that is struggling to find its footing in the national spotlight? Fair compensation and respect in the sports industry, and such instances pose a threat to all of that advancement. This is a vital time for the athletes, and if the league doesn't handle it well, it can discourage potential sponsors and investors from wanting to work with women's basketball. Competition is one thing, but targeted hostility and aggression have no place in professional sports. If the WNBA wants to increase its fan base and attract new viewers, it must foster an atmosphere where all players, regardless of popularity or race, are treated equally. As for Wilson, this could be a time for introspection. She has the chance to take charge, assume responsibility, and demonstrate leadership, but she can also choose to remain firm. Describe how history remembers Caitlin Clark. She has already displayed incredible poise throughout this controversy, and if she keeps her composure and concentrates on her game, she may emerge from it stronger than before. In the long run, her legacy may be shaped by how she handles this adversity even more than her achievements and accolades. In the end, the WNBA must decide whether to let this controversy further polarize the league or use it as a springboard for important discussions about equality, respect, and fair treatment in the sport. Whatever happens next, the scandal's outcome will have a long-lasting effect on women's basketball for years to come. The WNBA has been rocked to its core by this controversy, and the fallout is far from over. Will the league ignore this, or will Aya Wilson be held accountable? If you enjoyed this breakdown, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. As always, thank you for watching, and see you next time. One thing is certain, this moment will define the future of women's basketball. Do you think Wilson should be held accountable, or is this being exaggerated? Let me know in the comments.